The forestry sector was the first to feel the effects of Covid-19 as ports in China prevented the offloading of logs and workers here faced the chop. But slowly there looks to be some signs of recovery. President of the Forest Owners Association, Peter Weir, joins me now. Good evening, Peter. You had hundreds of workers stood down at various times there. How are things looking now?
We did. Well, we're seeing a light at the end of this tunnel. Forestry situation is very different to tourism, certainly not all doom and gloom. In the last week, we're seeing log offtake in ports in China back to near normal. And the plywood manufacturers in China want fresh logs. But that said, log boats are arriving from Aussie and New Zealand are arriving at about the same rate as the offtake. So the massive inventory in China is not declining and prices remain subdued.
Yeah.
Look, New Zealand loggers working for the big companies, they've been on about 80%, a 4-day week. Some of them might be going back to 5 days a week. Pulp markets are really healthy, no pun intended. Some New Zealand pulp is going to supply face mask manufacturers, and that market you could imagine is red hot.
Exactly.
The shutdown that's just happened in Europe has taken a huge amount of containerised insect-damaged spruce logs out of the China market. So supply, and that's what really caused our problems last quarter of last year. China got oversupplied. The coronavirus was just the last straw.
So, Peter, when you mention 80%, workers are some of them are back to 80% hours. Is that
4-day weeks? Yep.
Yeah. So is that all of them, or have you still got some people sitting on the sidelines?
Because prices subdued, the forest sector in New Zealand's a game of two halves. The woodlot owners, the small investors that only ever get one chance at logging, shut the gate and stop logging. If you were a logger that worked for a wood buyer that bought from woodlots and farmers, you're still out of work, unfortunately. The big companies knocked their loggers down to a 4-day week. They're probably going back to 5. Prices are subdued. Nobody's making any decent money, but it's really important we keep those loggers going. So it's a game of two halves.
So the ones that have moved away, where have they gone? What are they doing?
Okay, you're better to talk to the Forest Industry Contractors Association on that. Some in the Gisborne region and Bay of Plenty have probably gone to the horticulture sector, working in pack houses and things. There will still be some pain out there amongst some of the independent loggers that work on the farm woodlot sector. Truck drivers are probably down to something like a normal 40-hour week from 70. But that's not the end of the world. You can survive on 40 hours a week. Those that have gone to the horticulture sector, the work is absolutely there. They're probably taking a bit of a pay cut, but the work is there.
So this package announced today, Peter, with the wage subsidies, is that going to help your industry at all?
Look, I think it's really useful if the virus gets a foothold here. Harvesting's not that time sensitive, but the planting season's not far away. This is sending all the right signals that if a worker has been exposed and needs to self-isolate, or if a worker actually comes down with it, there's no incentive to go to work because of the backstop, they're getting paid. So in terms of business as usual forestry in an environment that's got this virus floating around, it's really useful in that space.
Is there anything more you need?
What we need is our workers not to go to work if they're feeling sick. We don't want the whole crew taken down, particularly in planting season. So this was a really good start.
Hey, so speaking of workers not going to work if they're ill, I understand you're in shutdown at the moment. Is that right, Peter?
Look, I self-isolated because I tried to go to the Formula 1 in Melbourne on Friday. I came home Saturday, but I thought I'd do the right thing and stay away from work for a couple of weeks.